Okay, and we are recording now. So I'm here today with one of the best BookTube creators out there, runs one of the best channels that I know of. And this is one of the reasons why I've invited Mike from Mike's Book Reviews here. Today, we're going to be talking about running a BookTube channel. And I feel like I could learn a lot of things from you, Mike. So I really appreciate that you're here talking with me about this topic. It's something that I think a lot of us think about a great deal of the time, but we never seem to talk about all that much. So I really appreciate you being here. I'm sure that my viewers are going to really enjoy learning some insights from you about the ins and outs. We're going to be having an honest conversation about running a BookTube channel. We're going to talk about time and the effort that goes into it, some expenses, how to grow a channel and build a community, how to interact with viewers and other creators and with authors. And we'll talk about a little bit about money and all that, those exciting topics. So thank you so much for being here, Mike.
Hey, thanks for asking. What an introduction. I had to wonder if you were talking about me there for a second.
I don't think there's too much argument about how well you run your channel. It's a wonderful place. You've built a fantastic community. So, and I know you've learned a lot in the process. So we're gonna be mining your wisdom here on.
Hey, anything you guys want to know, I'm sure I'll have an answer. I don't know if it's the correct one, but I will have an answer.
Well, then that's just the thing. So you and I are probably not the typical booktuber. We are maybe just a little bit older than the average booktuber
Elder
age.
statesman, yes.
Yes, we are the elder statesmen, as you put it so graciously, or as I less graciously put it, the grandpas of BookTube. Uh, so, but more so me than you, actually. But hey, everybody's got their little space here, and our experience might be interesting and perhaps informative for people, even if we aren't the typical booktubers. So I guess, with that caveat that we don't represent everyone, obviously, there's a real diversity of people on BookTube. So, and of course, you focus on fantasy, horror, and science fiction. I focus exclusively on fantasy. So, that's also a corner of BookTube as well. So all of that said, let's talk about the time and the effort that goes into this endeavor. Why do we do this? And how much time I've started to calculate for me, but I'm really curious because I feel like you do so many things. You do all the way from your thumbnails to, you've got your everything set up really nicely. That has to take a lot of time. You just did a bookshelf video. You put a lot into this, don't you?
I do, and here's the thing: is I'm somewhat of a perfectionist. So if you're gonna do it right. So I mean, for everyone who will say like, "Oh, hey, that thumbnail looks goofy," I'm like, "Well, you know what? I spent like an hour on that, so that kind of breaks my heart a little bit." But you develop a thick skin while you do this. You don't let little things like that bother you. For me, it's why do I do this? As Glockto would say. I think really with me as it started is I left the workforce, went back to school full time, needed some adult interaction. And so I was looking for like a hobby kind of on the side, because like I said, I wasn't talking to anybody but, a 5-year-old during the day. So that's kind of how it started for me. And I was like, I knew one other person in real life who read. He was going to medical school, so he wasn't reading nearly as much as I was. I just wanted somebody to actually talk to these things about. I had no idea that people actually out there wanted to talk about these things. So that's kind of how it started for me. But why do I do it? I get messages all the time from people telling me, hey, you renewed my love for reading. You made me take the fantasy or the horror, the sci-fi genre seriously, and I never did before. And basically just like, you made my day better. And to me, that's everything for me. If I can make one person's day 1 minute better or 20 minutes at a time better, then hey, my work here is done.
Those are words dear to my heart.
Hmm.
So I had similar reasons for starting the channel. For anyone in the audience who doesn't know, I'm an English professor, and I developed a course where I teach called Fantasy Novels. And this was stemmed partly from a desire to, like you said, talk to grown-ups about the genre that we love, and also because I felt like fantasy is deserving of critical attention and exploration. It is a genre with some really fantastic writers in it. So I wanted to have a community, and I was actually pretty naive. I don't know about you, but when I started this thing, I knew almost nothing. I mean nothing. I didn't know what a TBR was. I didn't know what a tag was. I didn't know so
I
many
still don't
things.
understand the tag thing, so don't
I
feel
know.
bad about it.
You're the guy with the I don't know what a tag is tag.
That's
So
right.
yeah.
Right.
But yeah, so it really was an effort, though, in great part to connect with other people who love the same kinds of books that we love. So that's a big part of it. But it is a lot of work, isn't it? I mean, I was thinking about how much time I spend. I probably spend 20 to 30 hours a week just reading
Mhm.
for the channel, whatever. I read about a book a week, which is not a lot by BookTube standards, but some of them are pretty. I mean, fantasy books are pretty thick, so
Are you like me in that you don't audio? You read everything,
I
right?
read everything. I do not
Yeah.
audio. I'm so old-fashioned in so many ways, and that is one. But I'll try it someday. I'll get brave. But yeah, so at least 20 to 30 hours a week reading,
Yeah. About
and
that's
then
probably.
I put out only usually 2 videos a week. So, but I spend, you know how much time you spend on a video. If it's a review, I have to make notes. I have to record the video, edit the video if I need to edit it, and then of course once it goes out and I get comments, I feel like I need to respond
Yeah.
to those
Interaction.
comments. So we're talking about like a full-time job here, really, aren't we? In terms of
Yeah.
time spent on it,
Yeah, pretty much it is a second job for me now because I have an actual real job again.
right?
But yeah, I'd say at least that much time. And then you didn't factor in the inevitable like goof, some technical error that you had that you weren't expecting or something like that that'll set you back a couple of hours, or
Yep.
your kids are being rowdy, you can't really read right now, or you can't record right now because it's like, I mean, I think your kids are older than mine, but when you got an 8 and a 5-year-old telling them to be quiet while you record, probably not going to happen. So you have to do it at later hours. So you're already at your wits end by that point.
Yep. And the technical issues, which is why I'm wearing the earbuds today. Normally I would just be talking with be hearing you on the computer speakers, but they're not working. So here I am with earbuds. But
We
hey,
roll with it. We roll with it.
that's what we got to do on BookTube, right?
Right.
So we put all this time into it, and I would say that it's not easy to grow a channel. It's something that takes I think some research and some skills and some people skills, especially. But what would you say are some of the most important things that go into building a channel, building a community? Because that's what I really admire your channel, because it really is a community that you've built, a very positive one. So that's a wonderful thing. But what are some of the important things that go into that?
Some things that worked for me was just when I started was, like you said, engagement. Don't be lazy. Make sure that you interact with everyone as much as you can. I mean, I'm getting to the point now where it's hard to keep up. It really is. I mean, I get
I can't
like
imagine how
today,
you
I
do
got
it.
a book haul video. It's got like 200 comments, and I haven't even started going through them yet. So I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, when I first got started, it was like I would respond to every comment, no matter if it was negative or what. I'd still would reply positively. Always kept a positive attitude. But really, what I said in my one of my more recent videos was the 3 B's: be honest, be consistent, and I forget what the other B is because we're doing this live. But yeah, just be honest and be positive. That was the thing. It was like, be
Yeah.
positive about everything. Try not to be grumpy. I mean, I'm always like encouraging people. Hey, this is my opinion. If you don't agree, that's awesome, man. Drop in the
Right.
comments. Let's talk about it. Because I felt like we had gotten away as a people being able to talk about these things. Like, I mean, are we really going to fight about a book opinion? I mean, really, is that what we're
Yeah.
going to do right now? So I
Yeah.
think that was a welcoming kind of thing for people, was being honest and being very, very positive about everything.
I think that's great. Yeah. I mean, dialogue, public discourse is something that I think we need to work on as a society a lot. And you're right. It is amazing. When you're talking about a book that you might say 99% positive things about it, and you say one negative
That's what you
thing,
hear about. Yeah.
and you hear about that, and sometimes there's this cult-like obsession with a book with that some people might have, and they have this the emotional maturity of a scared hamster or something. It's pretty, I mean, it can be difficult sometimes to deal with people. We're going to talk about that a little bit, but I like that you
Before we
keep
move
it
on, I got a
positive.
question for you.
Sure.
Where were these teachers when I was in school? Because I knew like one teacher had even like heard of Tolkien, for God's sakes. And now you're teaching courses on this stuff. This is just,
Yeah.
I don't get it. This is too cool.
Yeah. Well, I think it's partly that academia is a little more open to genre fiction than it used to be. And you can even do a PhD in like cultural studies, or you can even do a PhD just studying fantasy nowadays. So, I mean, there are not a ton of programs where you could do that, but there are some. Getting a job afterwards is another matter, but
Right.
but you can do a PhD. My PhD is in medieval literature, but it did allow me to do some fantasy stuff. So I did include some fantasy in my dissertation, because the medievalist that I was writing my dissertation about, who was a proto fantasy writer, really, William Morris. He was a big figure for influencing Tolkien. But yeah, so I'm getting lost here on one of my tangents, but absolutely, it's a better place nowadays than it used to be. You will still encounter a lot of snobbery. But I think you will find a little more open-mindedness about genre fiction in academic
Well, I
circles.
think it's about anything. Like the people are like, oh, I don't watch those superhero movies, even though it's like the biggest franchise in movie history. But I don't watch that stuff. So I
Yeah,
mean, yeah, you get
yeah,
that in anything, any form of media.
absolutely, absolutely, yeah. So,
All right, I
and
didn't mean to derail you there.
oh no, I love being derailed, so that's good. Another part of I guess building up your channel is kind of branding. I mean, we all have our little kind of approach to this. You have your coffee mug, I have my tweed jacket, we have
Rock
our
t-shirts and coffee mugs. That's what does it for me. Yeah.
exactly, yeah. And you have your pristine bookshelves, and I have my rather tattered book collection from
I like to
from
look at them as well loved.
yes, that's the term, well loved. My books are very well loved. But yeah, so we all have our different, vibe that we bring to this, which is wonderful. That's part of the diversity of BookTube as well. But it is important, like I said before, like I do fantasy. How important is that to have a kind of a brand, a thing, a niche? There are booktubers who just do broadly whatever, I guess, right? I mean, but does it help a channel to be more focused, or
I
what's
mean, here's the thing I've learned with BookTube is I'll make a video about Stephen King
yeah,
and moderate traffic. I make a video about a costume on the new Wheel of Time show. Boom! Viewers
well,
galore because fantasy rules BookTube. It really does.
huh?
And I think that's kind of, the happy accident of me actually discovering this is when I actually started, I didn't start a BookTube channel. I had started reading Wheel of Time. I was afraid I wasn't going to remember everything. So I started I was still podcasting at the time. So I started recording like these video diaries kind of thing.
Right.
And I just said, well, what the heck? I'll go ahead and upload them to what was at the time, the podcast page. And all of a sudden I was like, whoa, I'm getting like comments and stuff. I never get comments. I don't even know how many people actually listen to the podcast. And that's when I said, well, let me research this. People were like, hey, you got to check out this channel, check out this channel. And then I was like, holy crap, there's like this huge thing out there. And then I branched off into First Law and then some Stephen King. So I was like, okay, so there actually is like a thing. So when you said earlier, I didn't know what a TBR was, stuff like that.
Right.
I knew what these things were. I didn't know there were actual terms for them. Like I didn't know BookTube was a thing. I didn't know what a TBR meant, but I mean, I had one. So yeah, learning experience all around. But for me, it was really just a big accident. It's kind of how I fell into this.
Wow. Yeah. Well, we're glad you had that accident.
I'm glad too. I've met a lot of awesome people.
Same here. And that is one of the best. We're going to talk about the community, which is a very positive thing for me. And I know it's been for you in many ways too. But first, a little bit, I think people are very curious about money. When you talk about BookTube, a lot of people who aren't into BookTube might think that you make tons of money doing this, but actually for me so far anyway, and I have not put a lot of money into it, frankly, you can tell from my equipment. I have not put a lot. I use my wife's iPhone because my iPhone is a 7 and the camera isn't good enough. It's that old. Hers is an 11. So I use a tiny little, the biggest expense so far for me has been a little MV88 little thing that I plug into the iPhone to give it a better mic, which is I still get comments that my audio sucks. So, but I still would say that overall, when you put in the books that I bought, I'm pretty much breaking even. My ad revenue is basically covering the books that I bought and the little the mic that I bought to improve my audio. So it's not something you want to go into thinking I'm going to quit my day job, in a month or two, right?
Yeah, people think that you're like rolling in it, like we're making Daniel Green money or something. Look, it took Daniel Green a long time to get to that point where he could
Yeah,
probably do this as a job.
right.
For me, I never wanted to do this as a job because I wanted it to stay fun. But yeah, guy, I mean, I'll probably break 45,000 subs this week,
Yeah,
and yeah,
congratulations.
it's
Yeah.
not quit your job money, guys. It's basically if
No.
you're like, oh, I'm an independent artist kind of money. It really is. I have a lot of people that send me books now, and I have more books than I ever can read. So I'm like at a point where like, okay, I don't need to spend $200-300 on books a month anymore, like I did maybe when I first started this channel, because I had 2 bookshelves when I started this channel. Now I'm up to 8.
Yeah.
So
Whoa.
yeah, really all it did for me was kind of feed the habit. Now, if I didn't spend a nickel of it towards the channel, then it might have been a little different, I guess. I could have like bought a nice Honda Tercel or something, or Toyota Tercel or something,
Yeah. Yeah.
like a small car note maybe off of it. But yeah, I don't think that there's very many people like you or I who aren't doing this as a career that are making
Right.
quit your job money off of it. Ad revenue isn't really what you guys think. Patreon's awesome, but even that's taxable. So I mean, it's
Right.
yeah, my tax returns this year wasn't fun because of this. So
Oh, I bet.
again,
I
this
bet.
isn't anything that anyone is doing for money. I do it because there's lots of things to me. And I know people think this is just a line, but I swear to God, it's a genuine love of reading. I
Yep.
love getting other people to discover new artists. I have so many people, like I never would have read Stephen King or Michael Crichton or Pierce Brown or Joe Abercrombie if it wasn't for you and stuff. And to me, that makes it all worth it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So, in your estimation, and I know there are a lot of variables out there, length of video, how many videos you put out, how many subscribers you have, all of these things, impact the amount of revenue you're taking in, whether or not you have a Patreon, all that stuff. I've tried to estimate how much, not that I'm actually going to do it because I'll probably never get there, but how many subscribers you would actually need to quit your day job. I'm estimating it's somewhere around 70 to 80,000 subscribers, I'm guessing. And that's probably I don't know, is it 100,000? What do you think?
I mean, I guess you would say I'm halfway there. I
Yeah,
mean, if
okay.
it worked, if the dollar value of the YouTube algorithm and ad revenue sharing worked, like, okay, if I double the subs I have now, it'll equal double the money, but it doesn't work like that.
Probably not.
It's a different equation than that. And plus they change things all the time,
Yeah.
So I always was like, one, you don't know when this bubble is going to burst. This YouTube bubble is going to burst. And two, it's like,
Right.
it's nothing I can depend on because, one day YouTube can decide that, you're demonetized for no reason. They don't really even need one.
Yeah.
So for me, it was never, this isn't why I went back to school, to do this.
Right.
Would I like to do this full time? Look, I'd love someone to pay me to read, but no one's going to pay me what I want to pay me to read, and I'm married to an educator. You know what that's like, obviously. So it's not really a single income, and I can just be the aspiring artist over here kind of thing. So no, guys, the money is vacation money. That's really all it is, or to buy new books money. That's it.
Yep. And then there's the mysterious algorithm, which I have no clue how it works. I mean,
I think I've found things to get your stuff out there, just keywords, using the proper tags, things like that. Just making sure that you're consistent. I feel like for me, 20 minutes is like the sweet spot per video. For retainage, to get my retainage numbers up a certain way. But it's so weird, man. But I just try to be consistent. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, I try to put out new videos. And it doesn't always happen that way since I'm actually working again. So I don't know. I have no idea.
If you're doing this for a living too, there's an extra level of stress. I mean, it's got to be, actually, I would think, from the little bit that I know, doing the tiny little, I'm getting closer to 8,000 subs now. It's pretty small by BookTube standards, but I've heard the bigger channels, people who actually do this for a living, talk about how they're actually very limited in what they can do on their channels, because if they make a video that tanks, it affects the algorithm really negatively, and that hurts their income. So there's an extra level of stress and almost limitation imposed if you try to do this for a living. So, right? I mean, that's not well, fun.
That's why I say sometimes I'm gonna make the videos that I want. I was like, look, I try to give the audience what they want to hear about, but sometimes I'm like, yeah, my King stuff, my Michael Crichton stuff doesn't do gangbusters numbers. That's passion project for me. That's stuff that I'm
Yep.
passionate about, so I want to do it.
Yep.
But a lot of times people are like, well, who cares if no one watches it? Just make it. I'm like, well, I also don't want to like blast my channel to obscurity, because like when I did that horror month, yeah, humongous flop, humongous. So
Yeah.
I want to make sure, you know what, horror doesn't really do as well on BookTube. So I'm not, maybe I'll do my horror, but I'm not going to do a whole month to it, because yeah, that really set me back quite a bit when I did that. But I think with this, because I don't do this for a job, I can take risks like that, and still be here,
Yeah. Or is it that horror, so you built your channel more as, I think, doing fantasy content. So it might be also that you just got a lot of fantasy people who are passionate about fantasy and not as much about horror. And if you had started from day one as a horror channel, I don't know, I'm not as familiar with that genre, so you would know better.
That I feel like this is probably gonna sound really bad. I feel like Stephen King fans are much older. They're not really on the BookTube thing. So even though he's had like a new career renaissance with younger audiences after it broke out real big in the theaters, it got a lot of a younger generation, like a third generation, interested in Stephen King.
Interesting.
It kind of picked up a little bit, but no, it's just, I mean, like you go in right now and you type in Stephen King 4 Past Midnight review, you'll find like a dozen reviews. You type in Wheel of Time Path of Daggers review, and you'll find like 400. So
easily.
I mean, it's just fantasy is just so much bigger on YouTube. I have no idea how that happened, because it seems like whenever I go to a bookstore and you talk about fantasy, they're like, oh yeah, it's in that dusty little corner over there, because it's not, it's not significant to them.
Right. Well, that's the age thing again, and the average, not only the average booktuber, but the average viewer on BookTube is probably skews a bit younger, I would guess.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think Brian Lee Durfee told me one time, hey, if we were young and cute, we'd be world famous by now.
Yeah, no, he would be, no doubt he would be.
Yeah, he's a hoot.
So, well, yeah, so I don't think I'll ever actually figure out the algorithm, but I do notice certain things, like certain types of videos do better than others. Even I have noticed this.
Yeah.
So a dedicated review, which is the hardest type of video to do, because it requires that you read a book, it requires that you do some research, it requires that you make notes,
and then people won't watch it because they haven't read it.
Yeah, and that's the hardest thing, because I actually started this whole thing because I thought I would be just reviewing books. I didn't know about tags and all that stuff. So I wanted to do discussions and book reviews. And that's still primarily what I do, but I've noticed that a dedicated review does a lot worse than a TBR video or
Absolutely.
a book haul
video. To me, the only book videos I get where people haven't read it, where they will consistently watch it, is Why You Should Read, because I'm trying to sell them on a series. And that's the only ones that people, I've never read Pierce Brown, but I'll check out this Why You Should Read Red Rising video to see if you can convince me,
Right.
Those people will watch. But if I said, okay, I'm going to do a non-spoiler review for Red Rising, well, I'm going to wait till I read it. And I'm like, well, I mean, it's not spoilers, so you're okay, but they don't want to watch it.
It's almost the same thing though, isn't it?
They also don't want you to do spoilers. So it's like,
maybe it's just the word spoiler anywhere scares people away. But so I should just say Why You Should Read from now on when I do a review.
Why you should read, all your videos, just put Why You Should Read beforehand. There you go. Algorithm solved.
Boom! My videos are going to be all over the place now. So that's great. But that's interesting, and that is not a knock, by the way, on TBR videos or book haul videos. I understand why people like to watch those, because people just like being around books and seeing books and being reminded of books they've read, and maybe having a little bit of a tease about a book they might want to read. And also, if somebody's a dedicated follower of your channel, they want to know what you're going to be reading. So a TBR video is a nice thing to do. One
of the videos I do weekly that do really well, surprisingly, is these weekly updates I do, where I just basically, I'll talk about what I'm reading, like where I'm currently at, what I'm going to read next week, what I did this week on the channel, my plans for next week. And then I'll talk about some non-book stuff, what's going on in movies or video games or music or something. And people love those. They love those. I really had no idea that people would just be into basically a reading vlog, but a lot of the times that's my biggest video each week.
Well, it tells you to what extent this is about community, in addition to being about reading, I guess, right? I mean,
so many people, my feedback is they say what they do appreciate about the channel is, and this is something I really went for, as I said, I wanted to talk, to my audience, not at them. And they always say, I feel like I'm just sitting down in a coffee shop talking with an old friend, catching up about what they're doing. And that's kind of the approach I've always went for. So I think those weekly updates kind of just feel like that. Hey, what have you been doing? Hey, here's what I've been up to, so, and asking them at the end, what have you been doing? Let me know below. And I think that's why I've been doing that for almost a year and a half now. I've been doing that every week. So.
Wow. Yeah. And it does feel like that when you're sipping your coffee, Mike. It does feel like we're talking to
I used to edit those out. And then one day I just said, you know what? Screw it. That's going to be my thing.
Yeah, absolutely. That's part of the brand now.
People expect that. I'll actually get people now. They'll be like those bookshelf building videos. They're like, hey, you didn't sip coffee once. It's like,
yeah, that would be like me showing up without a tweed jacket. Right. So, yeah. So that's okay. So there are these different types of videos and they all have a purpose. I enjoy the discussions the most. I enjoy participating in them the most. And I feel like the most insights come out of it. And this is probably the professor in me too, I guess, but I really enjoy the discussions. And I find that I always learn stuff from my fellow booktubers and from the viewers in the comments. And so I really enjoy that interaction. Speaking of which, we get a lot of interaction in the comments. And in your case, you have a Discord, you have a Patreon, which I know nothing about Patreon. I really don't know what that is even. So perhaps you could explain that. But there are some negative interactions as well. We've alluded to that. And so how do you handle the interactions? I found that the bigger the channel gets, the harder it is to keep up with the comments. Sure. I'm sure you found that long before I did.
Was that the end of the question? I'm sorry. I thought you were still going.
That was the end of it. It was kind of a windy question.
With me, I just knew right away before I did podcasting. Before that, I did like sports journalism. And if you guys know anything about sports writing, is you get some really hot opinions, because that's all journalism is. It's just op-eds really at this point. So I learned a while back to develop thick skin, but with BookTube, what I learned really early on was there's a difference between just someone being shitty and someone giving constructive criticism.
Yes.
And don't be afraid to listen to some of that constructive criticism. I'm still learning stuff. I'm 2 years into doing this and I still learn something. Okay. That's why I ask people all the time, hey, if you guys don't want me to do this, say so. I'm not going to be hurt about it. So, but yeah, like the over the top ridiculous stuff. Like I said, people think it bothers me because I'll take pictures of it and put it on Instagram because I think it's hilarious. They're like, hey, don't let them get to you. It don't bother me at all, man. I think it's hilarious. So I don't know. The way I was raised, I have no ability to know how much work content creators put into stuff. So I look at it from that end. I would have no feasible way to go under their channel and say something really crappy to them, knowing how much they put into this,
Yes.
So, I mean, it's most book readers are kind of introverts, if we're being honest, it's taken a lot for some of them to get up here in front of a camera and do this kind of stuff. So to me, I could never actually say that. Apparently a lot of people don't have that problem. I was raised, if you wouldn't say it in person, don't say it on the internet, so. Good but policy. I try to be super positive about everything. So a lot of times when I get a really, really negative comment, I'll just be like, hey, thanks for watching. I appreciate the feedback. Something like that.
I've done that.
Kindness. They don't know what to do. It disarms them.
I have done that many times as well. And it is a few times even I have blocked a particular viewer because the comments have gotten really nasty. If not only if they're attacking me, but if they're attacking somebody else in the comments. I've even blocked somebody once who agreed with me and was attacking somebody who disagreed with me about my review, and but did so in a way that I thought was just over the top. So there's not a place for that, I think. And I don't mind, even a little vulgarity here and there is fine with me, but not if you're directing it at somebody. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. No tax. With me though, here's the thing: is like 99% to 1 overly positive.
Yeah,
for me, so
same here. I've been amazed by how much I have learned from my viewers and how positive it has been and how patient and nice the vast majority of them are. It is really something. But I think what you said in the beginning is really important. I think you do have to develop somewhat thick skin in order to do this, because you will have like the occasional, especially as your channel gets bigger, you become more of a target, and there are all kinds of people out there, and some of them don't think twice about saying some really awful things online, maybe that they wouldn't have the courage to say to your face, but or maybe they would, I don't know. But anyway, you do have to have somewhat thick skin, I think, because sometimes it can be disturbing, even, I would say, what people are willing to say about you, or because you don't like a book they like, or you like a book they don't like, so. But
yeah, when I make those reading entries for my things, and sometimes I make a mistake on them, and the sound doesn't sound right or whatever, and it's too late. It's too late. I'm not going to go spend the 2 hours I spent on it doing it again. And that's all I'm able to talk about. I'm like, hey, if you noticed it, you don't think that I noticed it? Of course, it was a problem. But you know what? Sometimes it happens. It's just, I'm not a professional, guys. I'm just a guy with Wi-Fi, as I always put it.
Yes. Well, me too. I'm much less a professional than you are, even. So let's talk a little bit then about the Discord, which is, speaking of interactions with viewers. I do not have a Discord. I haven't been brave enough. I probably never will. It's not just about bravery, it's also time for me. I've been on 3 Discords. I think yours is one, and Iskar Jarx is another, and Andy Smith is the third. And I have been I'm a pretty crappy Discord user.
Yeah, I'll tag you all the time and he never replies. So I'm like, yeah, he's probably just not even opening Discord.
I go on Discord. I don't go every day, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll see a number next to somebody's Discord, and I think that means there's a message or something for me, and I'll go in there and I can't find anything. So
there is a bit of a learning curve. Look, for me, when the channel was getting a little bigger, I mean, at the time, I think maybe I was at like about 5,000-6,000 subs, and at the time that was already exceeded my expectations ever for the channel. Right. And a lot of people were like, hey, you need to start your own Discord. And I was like, look, that's just another social media channel that I don't want to have to maintain.
Right. That's how I feel.
As is. But I finally went ahead and just said, why not give it a try? And I think why I'm really happy that I did it always is just because I provided a really, really welcoming and friendly community for a lot of people who were looking to say, maybe get away from something like a Twitter or something like that.
Yeah.
Because the only rules that we have there is don't be a dick, and just be nice. And everyone there is super chill. We're like at 5,400 users now.
Wow.
And everyone is just like, I'm not going to lie. I feel like I get messages all the time, and some people might think this sounds like lame, but it's not. I'll get messages all the time where people are like, hey, thanks to the Discord, I actually feel like I have friends now,
Wow.
And that's awesome to me. That is just really cool. And I mean, there's people who've become really good friends, and I've made really good friends off of that Discord. People I'll probably never meet, but that's okay. And in today's day and age, do you even have to meet them in this time of social distancing? Do we have to meet them?
Yeah, I would say no.
Friends?
It's a legitimate place to interact with people and have meaningful interactions. It's actually fantastic. And I've met a lot of really sweet, wonderful people on interacted with them, not just on BookTube, but in your Discord and Iskar Jarx, where I spent the most time, and those two the most. And like I said, I peeked into Andy Smith's a couple times. But I feel like a geezer. I feel like
there's a bit of a learning curve. When I went on it, it took me about a day to really get the hang of it, and to the point where I was almost like about to be like, screw this, But I was like, you know what? If I can figure Twitter out, I can figure this out.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm glad that I did.
Yeah. Yeah. I still worry. Am I doing this right? Am I saying the right? Am I using the lingo? And I don't know what half the things the abbreviations are, but. My daughters make fun of me for this, texting. I have to ask them, what does LMAO mean? So I'm pretty lame in Discord, and I want to give you a personal apology for that, but
no, that's fine. And don't worry about the whole old man thing. There's stuff that people say to me all the time. Like someone asked me the other day if I was simping, and I was like, I don't even know what that means, but maybe.
Okay.
So, it happens, when you're the elder statesman, sometimes you're going to miss, some of these things.
Is true.
My kids are 8 and 5, so they're not really down with like the high school kind of lingo yet.
Oh, just you wait. Yeah. So, well, and Patreon, I have a vague idea what it is, but I've been, a couple of people have suggested to me, hey, you should start a Patreon. And I'm like, I don't know what that is. And I didn't really go on to BookTube to make money. And wasn't even sure I would ever even have ads. So, but a Patreon it's not just about money, right? It's a way of interacting
It
again,
is, and here's the
right?
thing: a lot of people look at it negatively because they think it's just you asking for money. And I mean, when I first started, I was against starting one, and I went on Nate Bliss's channel, and he really pushed me. He's like, "Dude, you got 10,000 subs." He's like, "You'd be surprised how much people just want to help you out." And that's really what Patreon is. Just you'd be surprised how many people just want to help you out. They're like, "Look, you provide so much free content for me. I'll give you $3 a month and help you out," or stuff like that. But what you can do is you can offer perks and stuff. Like with me, the big one. Obviously, you get like a private channel in the Discord is one level. Next level, I have a Zoom call with these people every month, and it's awesome. We talk for like 3 hours. It's great. I mean, there's like 20 of us in there sometimes. It's awesome. Other ones, you know, you get like a coffee mug, a bookmark, things like that. It's just fun stuff that people just, like I said, they just want to kind of help you out. You know, and you'd be surprised. People love just to see their name in the intro credits and things like that. But I know there are a lot of people who kind of like look down on it, but you know. That's what helped me buy the new camera because look, I had 10,000 subscribers before and I was still using a webcam, you know? So I tell people, biggest advice is don't go out and buy a bunch of expensive equipment when it starts because it's unlikely that you're going to have instant success. So, you know, start if you feel like, hey, I can justify this expense now, you know, that's the business major in me talking there though.
That's good advice, sound advice. And I am still using my wife's iPhone for most of my videos.
So. I already had the microphone because I podcasted at the time. But the camera I was against for a while because I was like, oh, I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference. Oh, it makes a big difference because I go back to some of those early videos now and I'm like, ouch. Like I'm actually embarrassed. That's people's like first experience with the channel. It's like my old Wheel of Time videos. I'm like, it's gotten better. Try something new.
Yeah. Oh, I won't even go into how awkward my very first video was. Let's not even talk about that.
It's like my lips didn't even match to the audio didn't match to my lips.
Oh,
it was out of focus the whole time.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I had a jump cut like every 5 seconds in my first video. So
that was something that I think I was lucky in because a lot of people are like, wow, it's amazing. You don't cut your camera like at all usually. And if I do have a cut, it's usually I'm just cutting something out because the videos went too long.
Yeah.
It just comes from years of podcasting as you know how to fill empty space.
Yep.
So that helped me a lot. But
you're good at it. You're very good at it. So yeah.
Yes, I can fill up time with the best of them.
Yep. Which is a good thing, a good skill to have. Gift of the gab.
It's not honestly going to be great content, but you know what? I can do it. I can tell you all about this coffee cup for 20 minutes if you really want to know.
Well, you have some nice coffee cups though. So
well, that was a joke because when I quit drinking beer when I lost a lot of weight because I just would get smashed way too quick. So my wife said, okay, cool. How about no more beer glasses then? So I said, challenge accepted. And I started buying coffee mugs instead.
Oh, your poor wife. Oh dear. Yeah. I mean, back to the Patreon, you can have coffee cups with your logo on it and t-shirts. I don't know why anyone would want a t-shirt with my face on it.
Right. No, it weirds me out. Like I had some people for Mother's Day send me a picture of their breakfast in bed and they had a mug with my face on it. I'm like, this is just so weird.
I guess they like your company.
I guess. Hey, that's awesome. I'm happy to have them.
Yep, that's awesome. So we talked about Patreons. Another aspect of BookTube that for me is really, really cool is interacting with authors. And I haven't done a ton of it yet. I have had interviews with Stephen Erickson and Ian Esselmont, and I was part of a panel that talked with John Gwynn. You've also talked to John Gwynn. And you've talked to more authors than I have, but and I've had a few nice exchanges by email with a few others. So it's a little bit like meeting your hero. You know, it's kind of fun, but it is also something that, as you know, has been something we need to sort out, I guess, on BookTube is what are the parameters around interacting with authors, and the way I run my channel and the way I always wanted it to be is. Authors are welcome. If I do a review of an author's book and the author wants to leave a comment, I would be thrilled. I love that. Now I understand there are other booktubers who don't want that. And I think they have legitimate reasons. And I totally support their decision to keep their channel, particularly if they're doing reviews and that sort of thing, free of an author's influence. So I get that. But I personally feel like I'm here for discussions. I'm here to learn from people. And I feel like I could learn a lot from the authors. So I welcome their participation, whether it be in the comments or with a discussion, what have you. How do you feel about all that?
Well, first, I don't want to get too much into the Steven Erickson thing because we know
Right.
what happened there. And your video on that was exactly on point. Like when I make my Malazan videos and
Right.
Steven Erickson writes a novella in the comments, to me, that is like you're going to the rock concert, you're getting to go meet the band. That's how it feels to me. So
Same
I
here.
love that stuff. I am all about it. And I hope that some time will heal and he will still agree to come on my channel eventually because I'd love to talk to him.
Oh, yeah, I'm
But,
sure.
Yeah, I've always been, I want to talk to more authors. I would love to pick the brain. Like when Jim Butcher, I'm sorry, not Jim Butcher, but Jim Butcher's people contacted me asking if I would like to have him on the channel. Oh, yeah. I mean, let me think about it. Right. So
that's awesome.
There's still a couple, like, I mean, I'll never get Stephen King on the channel because he's a guy that still uses like snail mail. He probably wouldn't even know how this works. So that would clearly never happen. I'm still hoping to eventually get Joe Abercrombie on because he's went on a couple of other people's channels. And I'm like, they're not near the first law fan that I am.
That's
for
sure.
But I understand you want to go with what's going to give you the biggest outreach. But to me, helping out some smaller authors like Christopher Rocchio, got him on here, Nicholas Eames, and people like that, that I really would like, hey, they told me that they feel like this would get them way more attention than going and giving an interview in a magazine or something. So yeah, I would love to be any kind of help I can get with those people. And I want Pierce Brown to come on the channel. That's my big one. That's my big fish. He's writing right now, so he doesn't really do any social media. At least that's what I'm telling myself, because when I met him at the book signing, he was the coolest dude I had ever met. Talked to us for like, didn't matter how many people were online. He sat there and talked to you for 10 minutes. It didn't even matter. And I was I would love to talk to you in like at the time podcasting. I'd like to talk to you on the podcast. He's like, hey, yeah, sure. Just hit me up. We'll do it. And now every time I hit him up, it's crickets. So I'm just going to assume that he's one of those people when he's writing, he doesn't really interact with people. But I'm going off on my own tangent now. But yes, it's great. Authors are welcome. Please, I would. That to me, that makes it worth it when an author comments on something I've said about their series.
Yeah. So we agree on that. But I totally respect, the booktubers out there who feel differently. And I do understand there have been a couple really scary situations where somebody has criticized, or not criticized, but done a review of an author's book, and maybe it was a little negative, and the author, I think there was some YA author who did this, basically told all of her fans to go attack the reviewer.
Oh yeah, that happened around New Year. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, that sort of thing has happened. So there are some legitimate concerns around that, but I think that for the most part, most authors are just like, they're human beings, and most of them, I think, understand the boundaries and respect that. And I think there's there are some unspoken rules, I guess, about booktubers and reviewers in general interacting with authors. If you're a reviewer or a booktuber, you're not going to send a special tweet to an author if you've done a really negative review of their book, right?
Sure.
If you've done a very positive review of their book, then yeah, go ahead and tweet your review to the author. They'll appreciate it. If you're an author, don't sick your legions of fans on a negative reviewer, right? I mean, that's just sort of human decency to understand that sort of thing. So
I am a super positive channel. So when I was on Twitter, I remember I did a not so positive review on a Amakatsu book, and I was like, I am not tagging her because I'm afraid I would hurt her feelings.
Yeah. I mean, that's just what you do as a reviewer. You understand that you don't put it in an author's face. I think we should be honest in our reviews, and I know you are. I know you are, and I respect that. So I think that's great.
I wish the rest of the Malazan community felt that way.
Well, I mean, I would be a total hypocrite too if I didn't respect that, because I can't say that the first time I read the Malazan Book of the Fallen, I understood everything, or even that I loved everything. I for the most part, I loved it. I do think it's a series that really gets better with a reread. For me, it has, for sure. I feel much more connected to the series on my second read, and BookTube has been really helpful for that too, I would say.
I think about the people who did that series without all the resources and support you got now, and I don't even know how y'all did it.
That's how I did it the first time. I knew nobody. I didn't know anyone who had ever read these books. I was on my own. I didn't even know about BookTube. So it was kind of just being in the wilderness all by myself. And I love them, but talking to people about the books and gaining from their insights. And the Malazan Book of the Fallen is a great illustration of this for me, because I have learned so much talking to A.P. Canavan, for example, and talking to the fans. I remember I made my very first video on the Malazan Book of the Fall, and it was just a very generic general review of the series. It was like under 10 minutes. And I was 99% positive, but I said some one or two things that were kind of a little critical. But the fans were so nice to me. They were so, for the most part. There were a few of those cult-like fans.
There's always extremists with every series. Yeah.
Every fandom has some people in it who need to have more interactions, I think. But most of the fans were so nice to me and helped me, actually, and gave me advice, and it was very gentle and very respectful. And that's something that I've really enjoyed, that I've really loved from BookTube. And I guess that's where I'd like to leave our conversation, is to talk about what do we get from all of this? Because we know we don't get rich off of it. We spend a lot of time on it. We put a lot of effort into it. You and I have become friends. We can say that we've met some really wonderful people on BookTube, and as part of the creator community, but also among our viewers, and in your case, among your patrons. And so let's leave on a nice positive note and talk about what we get from BookTube.
To me, it's just being able to talk to people about things that I love. Whole reason I wanted to do this was just not only to just like spread the gospel and stuff that I loved, but get more people interested in things that they probably never would have read. Like I did a poll recently, like a lot of people told me there's numerous authors or series that they never would have started if I hadn't talked about it.
Yep.
And I took a poll, and John Gwynn won that one like far and away, but because I've been like a champion for that guy for a while now. But credit to Petrick, he's the one who introduced me to it. Not taking credit or anything like that, but it does warm my heart to see how much love John Gwynn is getting around the circles right now.
It's fantastic. I'm one of those, by the way.
Like the nicest family in the world. By the way,
my goodness,
that whole family is just like salt of the earth. They're amazing.
So nice, and the brothers Gwynn, I love their channel. Check it out. Fun. It's so fun,
and they have no problem sipping their tea and coffee while they record. Good.
Yeah. And they do it wearing, the coolest outfits as well. And they've got swords and axes and armor around them.
Yeah, so. John will come on your channel wearing straight chainmail. He doesn't care. But just being able to talk to other people about these things that you love, because there's so many things. Like I remember when I was on Twitter before I had this channel, whatever, I talk about what I was reading. People would crickets. No one ever went. So that's why I just never knew that there was like this bigger community out there of people who actually read, and especially sci-fi and fantasy. It was just like, people were like, oh, I don't read none of that goofy stuff. Like you think about when a Game of Thrones blew up big, and it was all these people that were like, well, I don't usually like fantasy, but this is pretty good. I'm like, yeah, this is what fantasy is, guys. It's just good. You just think, oh, it's got a dragon in it. It can't be good, right? So, just so finding like-minded, not really necessarily not like-minded people, but people who just are willing to talk about these things, because sure, I like to talk about movies, I like to talk about music and video games, but man, I love to talk about books because it's something that it's my number one form of entertainment. So realizing that there were other people out there who felt the same way. Like I just thought on this Discord that we got like a voice chat on there now. People get on there now and start voice chatting. And I'll always think, oh, they're going to run out of things. And every time I go in there, they're talking about who's where in Wheel of Time, who's doing what with Malazan, all that stuff. It's great. People never get tired of talking about these things. So that's why it's a community for me, because I've read Dune 12 times, and you know what? I have no problems talking about it ad nauseum, so I love that the community feels like a place that people can do that. And it's not just the Discord. I mean, it's the community as a whole and content creators as a whole. We love to talk about these things. And that's why I do it, just because I need to get these things out.
Yeah. And it's a wonderful place to do it. And there's a lot of satisfaction, a lot of fulfillment from that. And I can say I have learned a lot, and it's been such a positive experience for me. So well, thank you so much. And by the way, I filled out that survey, and if I would have put both Gwyn and King, but it only let me put one. So
well, see, that's a big thing right there. You're telling me, hey, I was really going to read Stephen King, but now you're getting in the Dark Tower.
Yeah.
That makes it exciting, because I guess you never really explored King before you got in the Dark Tower.
I have not read anything by King except for Dark Tower. and I'm going to be reading book 3, The Wastelands, and I'm really excited because yet another thing you're going to teach me a lot about is Stephen King and the Dark Tower, because you and I are going to get together in June.
We are going to have a palaver. It's going to be awesome. Can't
it's
wait.
It's going to be so good.
I'm just hoping when you're done with this that that you'll explore some other King's works, because I got quite a few recommendations for you.
Oh yeah. Now I think right now where things stand, I am going to be doing The Stand after Dark Tower. Although, is it The Eyes of the Dragon? That's another sort of fantasy oriented one, right? That he's written. That's for the one he wrote
like
for
a
his
fairy
kids.
tale. It is kind of a YA novel, and people think, "Whoa, King writing YA." Yeah.
Okay, but it has some connections to Dark Tower, I think, right? Yeah. Yep. Okay. I know there's a whole multiverse there.
Just about everything he does connects to the Dark Tower in some way.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
So I'm reading the core thing first, then, I guess, right? The Dark Tower. So yeah. So, well, thank you so much, Mike. This has been a real pleasure, and it's been enlightening for me, and I hope it will be for the viewers. And just thank you for having your channel and making it a very positive community. It is something that I appreciate when I watch your videos very much, and just love interacting with you and your viewers. And thank you.
Hey, my pleasure, man. I'm glad that you enjoy it. I enjoy your channel very much, obviously, as well. Like I said, when I watch your channel, I feel like I'm learning stuff, and I feel like there's not very many other booktubers out there that I feel like I'm actually learning stuff. So knowing that you teach and you kind of are not afraid, like how I'm not afraid to put like the business and marketing into my videos. I feel like you're not afraid to put your profession into your videos. And what I said, I remember my other B now was be yourself. Yes, you 100% be yourself. Don't try to be someone you're not. Don't try to copy someone else's channel. Don't do none of that. Just be yourself, and people are going to appreciate that. And I can tell very much that you're being yourself when you told me you don't know what LMA means. So
yes, we elder statesmen still have plenty to learn. So
and my emoji game is getting really good though, because of Discord.
Okay. That's a whole foreign language, really, isn't it? Yeah. All right, Mike, you take care. Thanks so much.
Hey, you do the same.
All right, bye-bye.